The water in the bronze basin is cold, but your hands feel like they are burning. You scrub your skin, feeling the rough texture of the towel the servant offers you, as the sound outside that guttural roar of 1,000 throats screaming in Aramaic makes the walls of the praetorium shake. "Crucify him," they scream. To history, you are the monster who washed your hands in the face of absolute innocence. To others, you are a cornered bureaucrat, a rational man trying to maintain peace in a desert of fanatics. Crushed between a paranoid emperor in Rome and a bloodthirsty mob in Jerusalem, you look down at the man bleeding on the stone pavement. He says nothing, and his silence is more deafening than the shouts of the mob. You don't know it yet, but the water in this basin won't clean anything. 2 millennia from now, billions of people will repeat your name every Sunday, not as a prayer, but as a curse. Let's find out how you came to stand in this courtroom. The smell of Rome is still on your clothes when you disembark at Caesarea Maritima in 26 AD. The air here is different, dense, salty, loaded with a fine dust that covers everything in a matter of minutes. You are a man of the equestrian class, an equa raised on military discipline and civic order. You are not a white-togaed senator who spends his days debating rhetoric in the Forum. You are a man of action, of spears and practical administration. When Tiberius, the emperor, hands you the signet ring and the appointment as Prefect of Judea, you feel the weight of the honor. But deep down in your pragmatic mind, you know the truth. Judea is no prize. It's a punishment. It is the forgotten corner of the empire where careers go to die, a strip of arid land inhabited by a people who worship an invisible god and detest the Roman eagle with a ferocity that defies logic. You settle into Herod's palace in Caesarea. The marble is cool, the pools are inviting, and the view of the Mediterranean ought to bring you peace. But your mission is clear. Maintain the Pax Romana. Maintain the flow of taxes. Maintain order. You look over the reports left by your predecessor, Valerius Gratus. 11 years of relative calm. You think to yourself that you can do better than that. You want to leave your mark. You want Rome to see Pontius Pilate not merely as a guardian, but as a civilizer. It is this ambition, this characteristically Roman will to impose form on chaos, that dictates your first fatal mistake. You order your troops to march to Jerusalem for their winter quarters, but you do something no previous prefect dared. You order them to enter at night, with the imperial standards held high. The insignias bear the image, the bust of Tiberius. To you, it is a standard demonstration of loyalty to the emperor, a reminder of who governs the known world. To them, the Jews, it is a blasphemous abomination, a direct violation of the commandment against graven images in the holy city. The reaction is immediate and terrifying. They don't fight with swords. They march to Caesarea, thousands of them, a mass of bodies dressed in simple tunics, surrounding your palace. You hear them before you see them, a low hum of prayers and lamentations that lasts for days and nights. The sound penetrates your windows, invades your sleep, sours your wine. For 5 days and 5 nights, they do not eat, they do not drink, they simply stand there, motionless, demanding the removal of the images. Your military patience snaps. You are a man of authority. You cannot yield to an unarmed mob in your first week. On the 6th day, you set a trap. You summon the crowd to the great stadium in Caesarea. They enter, hopeful or perhaps resigned. When the stadium is full, you give the signal. Your soldiers, hidden in the tunnels, emerge from all sides, swords drawn, the metal gleaming under the merciless sun of the Levant. Disperse or die, you command, your voice echoing off the stone walls. You expect panic. You expect flight. This is how the world works. The fear of death brings men to their knees, but what happens next freezes the blood in your veins and defies everything you learned in the legions. Like a single organism, the crowd of Jews kneels. They pull back their robes, exposing their bare necks to the blades of your soldiers. They do not scream. They do not beg. They simply offer their lives. One of the leaders looks into your eyes and says they would rather die than see their laws violated. The silence in the stadium is absolute. Your soldiers look at you, their swords hovering above the soft flesh of their necks. If you give the order, it will be a massacre. The ground will turn red. But you realize, with a knot in your stomach, that if you slaughter them, you will not have governed. You will have failed. Tiberius wants peace and taxes, not a bloodbath that ignites the Middle East. You swallow hard, tasting the bitter flavor of political defeat disguised as mercy. You order the withdrawal of the images. They win. You have learned Judea's first lesson. Roman logic does not apply here. Their faith is a harder weapon than the iron of your legions. You return to the palace, furious and humiliated, promising that you will never again be bent by these obstinate people. What you do not know, as you watch the standards being lowered, is that this same stubbornness, this same dynamic of the masses versus authority, will set the stage for the most infamous day of your life. But next time, the victim will not be an anonymous crowd. The years pass, and the dust of Judea seems to have infiltrated the pores of your soul. You try to govern. You try to be the efficient administrator that Rome demands. Jerusalem needs water. The ancient system is archaic. The cisterns dry up. The city stinks in the summer. You are Roman. Engineering is your secular religion. You design a magnificent aqueduct, a 40-kilometer work to bring pure water from the pools of Solomon to the city. It is a gift. It is civilization. It is progress. But engineering costs money, and the imperial treasury for the province is limited. You look at the temple, that colossal building of gold and white marble that dominates the Jerusalem skyline. The temple treasury, the Korban, is overflowing with donations from Jews across the world. To your pragmatic mind, it is obvious. The water benefits the city houses the temple. Therefore, the temple money must pay for the water. It is a simple equation. You confiscate the funds. You do not see this as theft, but as resource allocation. The reaction, predictably, is volcanic. This time, when you visit Jerusalem, the crowd does not peacefully offer their necks. They curse, throw stones, and insult the name of Caesar and your own. But you learned from the incident in Caesarea. You will not allow yourself to be surrounded again. You will not retreat. You infiltrate plainclothes soldiers into the mob with clubs and daggers hidden beneath their robes. When the cries of protest reach their peak, you give the signal from your platform. Chaos erupts. Your men do not arrest. They beat. They break bones. Skulls crack against the sacred pavement. The protest is crushed in minutes, dissolved in blood and screams of pain. You watch everything with a stoic expression, convinced that this time you have restored order. The aqueduct will be built. The water will flow. They will thank you one day, you think, but the victory tastes like ashes. The hatred in the eyes of the priests, especially High Priest Caiaphas, turns personal. Caiaphas is a political animal, as cunning as any senator back in Rome. He knows he can't defeat you militarily, so he starts playing the game you fear most, Rome's game. They write letters, not to you, but about you. Letters sent to Emperor Tiberius. They complain about your brutality, your disrespect for local customs, your incompetence. And back in Rome, the climate is shifting. Your patron, the powerful Sejanus, the man who commanded the Praetorian Guard and who likely secured your appointment, is falling from grace. When Sejanus is executed for treason, the floor drops out from under you. Suddenly, you are no longer a strong man's protege. You are the ally of a dead traitor. Tiberius, isolated on Capri, grows paranoid, seeing treason in every shadow. One wrong letter, one accusation of disloyalty, and your life is finished. Caiaphas knows it. The Jerusalem elite knows it. They smell your political fear like sharks smell blood in the water. Then the Golden Shields incident happens. You install votive shields in Herod's palace in Jerusalem. No images, just names. Even so, they protest. They write to Tiberius. And Tiberius, the man you serve, the man you have killed and built for rights back. But he doesn't support you. He publicly reprimands you. He orders you to remove the shields and move them to Caesarea. It's a slap in the face delivered in front of all your subjects. Your authority is hanging by a thread. You feel the contemptuous stares of the Sanhedrin priests. They know they have a leash around your neck, and the emperor holds the other end. You are cornered, isolated, surrounded by people who hate you, serving a master who distrusts you. It is in this state of extreme vulnerability, paranoia, and exhaustion that you wake up on a Friday morning, the eve of Passover, to news that the Sanhedrin is bringing you a prisoner, a Galilean, a traveling carpenter who caused a disturbance in the temple. You sigh, rub your aching temples, and call for your tunic. You think it's just another trivial case of public disturbance. You figure you'll handle it before breakfast and get back to your real problems. In that moment, adjusting your sandal buckle, you have no idea that the history of the universe is about to turn on your weary shoulders. and that your desperate attempt to save your own skin will seal your fate forever. The morning sun is already fierce when you step out onto the Lithostrotos, the stone pavement where the court is assembled. They won't enter the praetorium, so they won't become ritually defiled before Passover. Their hypocrisy makes you roll your eyes. They are plotting judicial murder, but they're afraid to step inside a Gentile's house. Outside, the crowd is already restless. Caiaphas and the elders are up front wearing that false deference you've learned to despise, and standing among them, the prisoner, Jesus of Nazareth. You expected a revolutionary, a fanatic with wild eyes like Barabbas or some lunatic shouting prophecies, but the man standing before you is disturbingly calm. He's bruised, there is dried blood on his skin, but he stands with a dignity that does not belong to a Galilean peasant. What accusation do you bring against this man? You ask, your voice bored, like someone who has presided over 1,000 trials. They evade the question. If he were not a malefactor, we would not have delivered him to you. You try to bounce the problem back. Judge him yourselves according to your law. It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death, they reply. And there it is, the trap. They want blood, but they want the sword to be Roman. They want you to be the executioner, so that should there be a popular revolt supporting the prophet, the blame falls on Rome, not on the temple. You lead the prisoner inside, away from the crowd. It is just you and him left in the silence of the praetorium. You interrogate him. You ask if he is the king of the Jews. He answers with questions, with riddles about a kingdom that is not of this world. You are a practical man, a Roman materialist. Kingdoms are made of armies, territories, taxes. A kingdom of truth, that sounds harmless. What is truth? You mutter, cynical, turning your back before even waiting for an answer. To you, truth is power. Truth is who holds the legions. You go back outside. I find no crime in this man. It is the legal truth. He might be a lunatic, but he is no threat to Caesar. But the crowd, incited by the priests, roars. They demand death. Your wife, Claudia Procula, sends an urgent message. She had a dream. Have nothing to do with that righteous man. The note reads, a shiver runs down your spine. Romans are superstitious. Dreams are warnings from the gods. Now you have political fear on one side, and supernatural dread on the other. You attempt a diplomatic exit. You send him to Herod Antipas. Herod returns him. You try mercy through cruelty. You order him flogged. You hear the sound of the Roman scourge, the flagrum tearing the flesh. The soldiers mock him, place a crown of thorns on him. You bring him back outside, bleeding, humiliated, a ruin of a man. Behold the man, you announce. Ecce homo. You think, surely this is enough. Surely their bloodlust will be satisfied upon seeing such misery. Nobody can look at this piece of trembling flesh and see a king or a threat, but they scream louder. Crucify him! You hesitate, you resist, and then the final blow comes, the phrase that shatters your resistance. If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Everyone who makes himself a king is against Caesar. The world stops. Caiaphas has played the supreme card. Amicus Caesaris, the official title. If you let him go, they will write to Capri. They will tell Tiberius you protected a rival, a usurper. Given your record, with the shadow of Sejanus hanging over you, this is a death sentence. You see the choice with crystal clarity. It is the life of this strange carpenter, or your life. It is abstract justice, or your career, your family, your existence. Fear wins, the administrator wins, survival wins. You ask for the water. You wash your hands before them, a Jewish gesture that you adopt to mock their responsibility. I am innocent of this righteous man's blood, you declare, but as the water flows over your fingers and mixes with the dust, becoming mud in the basin, you know it is a lie. You had the power, you had the imperium authority. You chose not to use it. You hand him over to be crucified and release Barabbas, an actual murderer. To the crowd, as he is led away, dragging the wooden beam, you feel a strange emptiness. You survived. You avoided the riot. You kept your position, but looking at Jesus' bloody back disappearing into the crowd, you feel that you have just committed the mistake that will define not only your career, but eternity. You think it is the end of the problem. Little do you know that 3 days later, the problem will become impossible to ignore. and the specter of that judgment will haunt you until the end of your days. The years that follow are a blur of bitterness. The crucifixion of that Nazarene did not bring peace. On the contrary, his sect grows like a silent infection, speaking of resurrection of an eternal kingdom, and your authority continues to erode. 6 years later, in 36 AD, the end comes. Not because of Jesus, but because of another massacre. Samaritans gather on Mount Gerizim, looking for Moses' sacred artifacts. You see a threat of insurrection. You send the cavalry. Many die. Complaints reach your direct superior, Vitellius, the governor of Syria. This time, there is no pardon. Vitellius orders you to return to Rome to answer to the emperor. You board the ship, leaving Judea forever. 10 years. You governed that ungovernable land for a decade, longer than most, but you return in disgrace. During the journey, crossing the winter Mediterranean, the news arrives. Tiberius is dead. The old monster is gone. Caligula is the new emperor. You arrive in a Rome that no longer knows you. You are an official of the previous era, a relic. The historical records regarding your end become diffuse, like a fog. Some say Caligula exiled you to Gaul, to Vienne, where the winters are long and gray. They say you spent your days gazing at the Rhone River, compulsively rubbing your hands, as if trying to remove a stain that no one else saw. Other legends are darker. They speak of suicide, that the weight of the guilt, or perhaps the weight of political failure, was too much, that your body was thrown into the Tiber, but the river rejected it. But the cruelest irony, the twist your Roman mind could never conceive, happens centuries after your death. The Roman Empire, the very beast you served with such zeal and fear, kneels before the carpenter you killed. Rome becomes Christian, and at the Council of Nicaea, bishops gather to codify the faith. They write a creed. They need to anchor the death of God in real history. Date it. Prove that it wasn't a myth. They choose your name as the anchor, crucified under Pontius Pilate, not under Tiberius, not under Caiaphas, under you who only wanted to be a good administrator, who only wanted to keep the peace and please Caesar, become the eternal villain of the greatest story ever told. But in distant lands, in Ethiopia, a church canonizes you. They say you converted secretly, that your reluctance to kill the Christ was a sign of holiness. Saint Pontius Pilate, hero or villain, coward or instrument of fate. In the end, in the cold shadows of your exile, or in the eternity wherever your soul resides, the prisoner's question still echoes, unanswered. What is truth? Perhaps the truth is that you were just a man, a mediocre man placed before divine choice. And you reacted as any man would react, trying to save your own skin. And for that, the world will never forgive you. You look at your hands now. Do they look clean? History judged Pontius Pilate harshly, but put yourself in the stone courthouse. Smell the fear and the pressure of an empire at your back. If it were you, with your career, your family, and your life on the line, would you have the courage to say no to the mob and to Caesar to save a silent man who seemed to desire his own sacrifice? Or would you ask for the bowl of water, too? Maybe Pilate isn't some distant monster. Perhaps he is the most uncomfortable mirror of human nature, the moment when convenience defeats conscience. What would you do in his place? You lived this life, but there is another one waiting for you, another choice, another destiny, another truth no one told you. The next life is right next door. Can you handle it? If this life left a mark on you, leave a like, share so others can live what you just felt, and subscribe, because every week you become someone else. History doesn't wait, will you?